That's a great way to start this.
No, it's not.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is my beautiful wife, Angela. If you've never met her
Hi.
before or seen her in my videos, I've been fortunate enough to know her for the last 15 years, and we have been married for
11?
2012.
I don't I don't know.
Almost 12.
Oh, so 11 years.
Yes, almost 12 years. So close. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do a pretty cool series with her on what it's like being married to dating, being in a relationship with a bodybuilder. Now, this may end up taking a bunch of different directions as we get going because, she's a counselor by trade. So, she does have a unique experience with, working with people in relationships and things like that. But on the flip side of that, how can we help you and your spouse, significant other, navigate this world of competing, gaining weight, losing weight, you name it, body dysmorphia, whatever.
Craziness.
Yes, 100%. So, and plus, a lot of times, people are not surrounded by other couples who deal with this. So they think, oh, this is only a one-off issue. This is only our issue, when in real life it's not. For the most part, every dynamic like we have they struggle with the same things. There may be different issues, but for the most part, we struggle with the same thing. So I thought I'd give you all a little bit of a backstory of how her and I met, because it is a little bit of a unique experience. I used to train her in the gym before we ever dated, and honestly, we were just good friends. And I think that kind of built a foundation of what we have today, which I'm eternally grateful for. Someone at the door. So that is something that to me is very fundamental in terms of building a relationship with someone. So we went there, and then we actually were competing or training to do a show, not necessarily together, because we were doing different shows, but we just really wanted someone to hang out with who, couldn't go out and eat and drink with friends, who understood what the other was going through. And it really built this bond and a relationship that to me has been rock solid for the last 15 years. So that's kind of the short backstory between her and I. But let's get into some meat and potatoes of things in my mind that are going to be really important to you guys. So yesterday, for example, was my birthday. I turned 37, and I'm going to get her to talk here for a minute and simply say, what has been the transition from the first birthday you spent with me at 23 versus my birthday at 37?
So
And she's going to be brutally honest, by the way.
this is not for the faint of heart. So your first birthday, I mean, essentially we spent. I was contest dieting. You were contest dieting, I believe, at the same
Yes.
time. So there was really life was very vanilla. There was no. I mean, we had fun, but we lived in our own little bubble. Life has changed over 15 years. We have two kids. I have a full-time job. He has a full-time job. There's a lot of other factors that come into place. So yesterday, for example, life throws curveballs at us all the time. And for people who do what Chris does chronically, it's very hard sometimes when things change. So our kid was suddenly out of school, not because he was sick, but because the Rona shut his whole entire kindergarten classroom down.
Don't say that.
I know I'm not allowed to say that. But so he's been home with us. So all the things I had planned are, basically right out the window, which is fine because we can have a family day. But, the best example I can give you is Chris wanted spaghetti last night for dinner. So, we use grass-fed beef, as lean as you can buy it. We use the healthy, sauce. I mean, you name it.
Gluten-free noodles.
Gluten-free noodles, and I made noodles and had them on the pot. Everything was within 3 minutes of being ready. And this MFer pulls out a different type of noodle because he wanted something that he could measure prior to it being in the boiling water. So, and honestly, I was like, are you effing kidding me? I just spent an hour making this dinner. But that's the kind of things you have to be adjusted to. I can't go out and buy a cake at the store because I have to get, I posted on my Instagram yesterday his cake that I made, and it was, a box cake mix. It was a Diet Coke in it. It was made with sugar-free fat-free Cool Whip. It had sugar-free chocolate chips on it. So the whole thing was, as far as cakes go, relatively low calories, and as healthy as you can get eating a cake. So there are just things like that you have to ebb and flow. I was going to take him to breakfast yesterday morning. Well, I can't wait another 15 minutes till we get there. So it's just about, 15 years ago, I would have said, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z, assuming he wasn't in a contest prep. And it would have been like, yeah, let's go. Well, it's going to be fun. We're going to have all this good time. And now it has to be planned and calculated. It has to be down to the second, because every minute before a workout counts. Ladies, if you don't know that, every second post-meal to your workout is important. Don't ask why. It just is.
It is every second. So, and in addition, like speaking on that, like I had quads yesterday. Originally, when I was in my 20s, I probably just said, fuck it and skip it. Well, I'm not going to do that now because I wouldn't have been able to enjoy the rest of the day if I would have done that. And then that's one of the things that I think Shelby really taught me is for my birthday, I should be able to do what I want and whatever makes me happy, right? So that's what I do, and that's what I did.
He got what he wanted. Everything was fine.
I did get
no bodybuilders were harmed and no macros were lost. No muscle was diminished in the spaghetti meal last night.
No, because it was all measured. So, and because it eases my mind. So if it eases my mind, I'm just going to be able to enjoy myself because technically my free meal isn't until Saturday night, which her and I were going to go on a date for. So, like, again, to me, to us, she knows and can adapt to that, where I think in a normal dynamic relationship, that may be a struggle.
Agreed.
And, with her being a former competitor, she gets it. So that is really helpful and beneficial to me because if I'm being honest here, I couldn't date or be married to someone who doesn't get what I do because it would just be too much conflict, too much butting heads. It would be too many arguments about, well, why do you need to be at the gym at 11:35? Like, I don't have to explain that to her. She gets my neuroses and why that OCD matters. So,
when I think that you have to consider. Probably a topic for another day, but this isn't one of the things that is important is that Chris can be, and I'm speaking in terms of our relationship obviously, but Chris can be all about Chris, 100% about Chris, and again that's a topic for another day, but you have to just know that there's calculated reasons behind everything, as ridiculous as they seem. And had we met now, I don't know what our dynamic would be like. I don't know. I probably would have been like, yeah, okay, sorry. This is not cool. I don't know that for sure. But having competed together, and he's right. Like when we first met, I was like, do you want to cook some chicken? Like that was the exciting, right? I believe that's exactly what I said. You want to get together and have some chicken and rice? Mm-hmm. And like, that's how we got together. So it's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it's consistent.
Right. Yeah. And to me, as you guys know who follow the channel, follow my Instagram, that's what I'm all about, right? Is consistency. And, as she spoke, like my mindset has drastically evolved over the course of the last 15 years because it's had to. If I wanted to progress and get better in the bodybuilding world and get bigger, like it had to take me getting more locked in and dialed in because if not, I wouldn't have made the progress that I had over that same period of time. So again, that's just a short topic we want to talk about is, that can be substitute birthday for holiday, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving.
Well, and you have to be like, for me, I'm not dieting right now. I'm not on a contest prep by any means, nor do I plan to compete ever again, probably. Too many other things in our lives that go on, but you have to be flexible and you have to know that your person is not going to go to dinner with you and eat dinner. They're not going to drink necessarily when you want to go have a glass of wine at night. So, part of that is just knowing that that's how it's going to be and it's not personal to you as the significant other. It's not just ladies. I'm sure there's lots of men in this same situation. Yep. But it's you just have to know it's not personal. And even I still take stuff personal, like last night in the damn noodles, but you have to just know that it's not personal. It's not to you. It's not anything that you have done personally. It's just, that's how they are. And if you're not okay with your person taking Tupperware containers into your grandma's house, maybe you're not in the right relationship.
100%. Like, and again, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, like that might be a conversation you have to have. But if you work with me, I expect you to do this stuff, right? Especially if you're in prep. So somebody just asked me how old I was. I just turned 37.
He's a baby.
But again, that's one of those things that comes with time and with growth, both in the bodybuilding world and as your relationships evolve. So, all right. So we talked on that for about 10 minutes. I want to try to keep this under 20. So let's get to some of these questions that I got through my Instagram DM. And the first one for her is, what is your favorite, pre-contest or off-season? And I laugh because we'll do this in two ways. What's your favorite in terms of how I look, and then how my behavior is?
So it's a really great question since he's just come out of a show season. So honestly, I prefer prior to contest season starting. Pre-contest is very rigid. It's very calculated. It's very structured. Now he looks amazing. I mean, there's no question about it. My friends are always like, I saw your husband's abs on Instagram this morning. And, it's the talk of work. But it's, so do I think he looks amazing pre-contest? 100%. But I can tell you that it's hard. It's hard during that time because I have to manage.
Can you be specific about the time ranges for people?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, within 12 weeks, things get rough. And when I say rough, for me, what that looks like is, again, we have kids. We have a high schooler who wrestles. We have a little kid who is involved in like Parks and Rec stuff, who's a kindergartner. So we're kind of all over the place, which means I have to do a lot of the drop off. I have to do a lot of the pickup. I'm a coach at Orange Theory. And during that time, I have to tell, my head coach, who luckily is a friend of mine, that, I can't teach as much during this time because I can't depend on Chris to be available and to be ready and to be able to do the things I need him to do because he's doing cardio at 4 a.m. and he's, the day's scheduled from 2 hours prior to me waking up to 2 hours prior to me following me going to bed. So, that time period it gets a little sticky. Within 6 weeks, it gets a lot more sticky. Now about the week of the show, he's in a really good mood for the most part. Normally he's eating up into the show, things like that. But then there comes a whole other host of issues, whether I can be there or not. We started a relationship and I was at every show. He was at every show of mine. And we don't live that life anymore. And although we wouldn't trade our life, that's something that we both kind of have to get used to and navigate. And, it sucks for me to have to watch it on TV, or it sucks for him for me not to be there to cater to his every needs, but we have to make it work. During off season is fun because he's a little bit more flexible. He's willing to go with us to the beach on a beach trip, even if it's just for a long weekend. He's just more flexible and able to do so. And I'm like, hey, let's walk down to the pool. It's like, okay, yeah. This past summer when he was in contest prep, I'm like, hey, let's go to the pool. It was like, the sun. So
well, I need to get my naps in. I had to prepare my next meal. I had to get ready for training. I had to do the second round of cardio. So those are all things that I think about where it's like, oh, all you gotta do is go lay by a pool. Well, no, I can't just go lay by a pool because our younger son's gonna be like, hey, daddy, come throw a ball with me. Where honestly, I don't even have the energy to get out of the chair to go take a piss. So
yeah.
Again, those are small things that you just don't know if you've never done it. And again, that's why she can relate to me because she knows. Now, I will say she's a much better sport than I am, meaning she can tolerate that pain a lot better than me. She honestly has to diet harder than I do more cardio than I've ever had to do.
True.
And she's just more of a trooper. And I believe that's because women are probably just 9 times out of 10 tougher than most men. And I'm not too big to admit that I'm not a big baby. And then I know and I rely on her to do a lot of things for me so that I can honestly get naps in and lay on the couch with my feet propped up and, do everything to where I'm eating a hot, fresh meal every 2 hours because I only get 6 or 7 of them. I want every one of them to taste delicious. Where she's going to eat out a cold Tupperware container or opt for a protein shake where I'm not going to do that. I'm never going to drink a shake within 8 weeks out because I'm hungry as hell. And I want whole food. Where she'll just go pound a shake and some nuts and be like, oh, I'm good. And I'm like, that wouldn't even be remotely satisfying for me. So that's an example there of, again, trying to mold and be flexible. She takes care of me. And then on the flip side of that, I have to make sure that 2 months, 3 months after the shows are complete, that I return that full steam before it is again time for me to start locking back in again.
When I think that's I'm glad you said that, because it kind of triggered me that you have to be really secure in your relationship, because there's going to be a 12-week period where you as the significant other is not the center of attention. Your children aren't the center of attention. The other things in your life that were important aren't important anymore, because it's all about those 12 weeks. Or 6 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the time period is. And you just have to know that that's how it's going to be. And honestly, it took us a while to get there, but I think we've adapted. We started when you were Chris was barely out of college when we started dating. And so he was, I can say that because I'm older, but he was still a baby at that point. And it just, it wasn't as hard as it is now, I guess. It wasn't as serious as it is now.
And I will say, even though I know it doesn't solve the issues of me being mean or snappy or just not involved, but guys or girls who are competing, I try to do my best. When I'm at Fresh Market, I'll grab her some flowers. I'll just randomly surprise her and order some leggings off the internet and have them shipped to the house. I try to do little things like that require little to no effort, meaning not a lot of energy expenditure, but to just show hey, I still love you. You still are important to me. Thank you for everything that you do for me. And I swear to God, when this is over, I'll be back to normal. Mm-hmm. And by normal meaning, not a super obsessive compulsive, not super vain, not always obsessed about how every single piece of my body looks. And it's one of those things that I also need to share with you guys. She is easily the best set of eyes for me because she's seen me always competing, so I rely on her a lot. I'll just randomly strip down in the kitchen and be like, look at my glutes. What do they look like? What do my hamstrings look like? What does my back look like? Look at my abs. Are they washed out? What do my quads look like? Why are they not as vascular as they were 3 years ago? And she'll either have to say, well, you're right, they aren't. Or she'll say, you're crazy as fuck. Pull your pants up and make your meal and go sit on the couch. So again, that her and I's dynamic might be a tad different than you all's. But the longer your spouse or significant other, girlfriend, wife, husband spend with you, you'll start to see if they pay attention close enough. Some things to help. So, all right, next question is, what is the hardest thing to adjust to? Meaning going from dating a normal person to someone like me.
I think that the biggest thing is that it is a very vain sport in a lot of ways, and I don't mean people are super narcissistic that are bodybuilders or figure or fitness or bikini or whatever, but what I mean by that is they're very self-aware of how they look, and there's a lot of pictures, and so most of your friends see your spouse or significant other half naked 90% of the time, and that can be hard to get used to, because it took me a while for people to be like, I saw your husband. It doesn't honestly matter if it's male or female, but I get that. It can spark a little bit of oh my God, the whole world has seen my husband basically naked. So honestly, that's the hardest part. The other part that's hard that I've already mentioned though is just that it's all about them, and it's all about where they are in this process. And it should be, honestly, you would never look at an NFL husband and say, well, do you really have to go to practice today? Same with a professional female athlete. It's not just men. I keep saying men because I'm married to one. But you would never look at an Olympic gold medalist in women's gymnastics and say, do you really have to go today? You would never do that. So it's the same thing. You just have to know it's a goal. It's not a cheap hobby, by the way. So it's important for them to have that period of time that they do it, but it can be an adjustment.
And I think that what's difficult for you is 90% of the year I stay covered up. I wear long sleeves, I wear pants. Most of my videos online are all in a hood, doing exercise, and then come pre-contest time, then it starts to be physique updates and, hey, my back looked wild today. I'm going to take a picture of it with no shirt on, or I got out of bed and my abs were super veiny. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to take a picture of that and post it.
Yeah.
And that is a big difference. If I go from nothing but in hoods and long XXX Iron Rebel shirts, training in the gym, to that can be very, very different. Because I know even the clients that I work with, their spouse have complained to them about, oh, you're getting so much more attention now.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're in better shape.
Yeah. And I think you have to remember, for the most part, I won't say this is the case 100% of the time, but for most people, they're not out chasing other people during that time. If they're serious about it, they're out there for themselves. Now, I'm very secure in my relationship, so I don't even think twice about it. It's funny now, but it did catch me off guard a lot in the beginning. Like, how many times are you going to post your ass today? But it did take me off guard in the beginning a little bit. And then, but again, I know he's not out. Listen, ladies, you can throw yourself at him. He's not going to know.
No.
That's the sad truth.
You tried and it didn't work.
That's the sad
I'm joking.
truth.
I'm joking.
But no, seriously though, you just have to be super secure in your relationship to know that, and trust. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy.
And honestly, when I look my best, I have the least energy to do anything outside of my daily functions. So 9 times out of 10, if you're worried about your competitor, boyfriend or husband or wife cheating, if they have that kind of energy, I would really challenge them and say, you aren't dieting hard enough. Yeah. Because I don't have the energy to think about that. Yeah. I just don't. Like, and that's me being honest. Like, in the past, in certain preps, when I've been like feeling the devil's breath in the back of my neck, that is one of the areas that her and I have had to deal with, because my sex drive has been in the toilet. And that could be from supplements I'm taking, or how low my body fat is, or just my energy in general. And that can make her feel very unwanted. And it's like, well, if he's not getting it from me, where's he getting it? And the answer is nowhere. I'm getting it on the fucking treadmill.
That's right.
And that's difficult because in a normal dynamic, my sex drive is super high. So that can be a very... and it's like a switch, right? Like, I can speak from my perspective. It's like a switch. It's like one day I crave her, want her all day long, and then like bam, just 32 days out, it's like, oh, okay, I take it or leave it. Like, and then the moment the show's over, it's right back to normal. So some different perspective there. All right, last question here, and then we'll wrap this all up. Is are there any foods or seasonings that I use that you absolutely hate, and how do you deal with it?
I absolutely hate fish. I am not a fish eater. I have never been a fish eater. I was in a contest prep once where I was required to eat fish, and I ate it, but I did not like it. And that was just a miracle that I even made it through. Probably why I'm refusing to compete at this point. But fish. I hate his fish. It smells terrible. And I know he posted that beautiful video with the cinnamon, and I like literally gag every time he cooks it. Our whole house smells like fish. Our kids are like, what is that smell? It's terrible. So that is the, I swore it prior to fish though, it was garlic, but it wasn't the house smelling. It was that he used so much garlic seasoning. He smelled like garlic, like it was almost emitting from his pores. And it used to kind of make me like cringe a little, but, honestly, there's no hope for fixing that. I know he's tried several ways to do it. He buys the best fish he can potentially buy around here. We obviously are landlocked. We aren't by an ocean, or
that's the only other way I could get it fresher.
Yeah. But honestly, I open doors. I light candles. I spray behind him. Anything I can do. But it smells terrible, and it goes on like that for what feels like forever. It's disgusting.
Because normally I eat fish like roughly the last 10 or so weeks. This time it was longer because my prep was longer. I did 3 shows, so she was forced to have to smell that longer. And that's one of the things I do not eat in the off season. So maybe I like wave in and out of it, or if I just maybe did it constant all year.
Listen, he tried to cook some salmon the other night, and I was like, absolutely not. We're gonna get divorced if you start eating that on the regular. I can't do it. So Andrew, take note of that. There is no fish on his plan. Sorry.
So again, and the funny thing is, like, out of all my other foods, though, that's the only one you hate.
It's the only one I hate. Yeah, there's a particular spice that he uses that actually burns my eyes when he uses
all
it.
That Chipotle seasoning.
Yeah, but I don't. It smells fine. But the fish. Oh God, I can't.
And like so I can speak about the garlic. I was getting very heavy-handed. Like as I get deeper into a prep, I get heavier-handed with seasonings, especially like things that make it flavorful. And don't add calories. So what I'll find is, like, I'll start using more garlic, and eventually I can't tell the difference, but she can. But that's one of the things I pulled back this time. I didn't use any garlic the whole last 12 weeks.
I also don't let him make my food because he like salts the shit out of it, and I can't eat it. So that's
okay. So watch my salt video, and you'll see why I salt everything.
He doesn't do this. He does this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, also, I think I'm used to salting my food, which is a lot more volume.
Maybe.
But that's either here or there. Okay. Any final thoughts here? I do want to ask her one funny question to kind of end this segment on season 1. Do you have any funny stories that are like short that you could share about me, either competing or in the off season?
So my favorite story is we were backstage at was it the Muscle Heat?
I don't know. You gotta tell me the story. We were backstage at a lot of shows
when you were training with Shelby. Okay, so long story short, Chris is right. I can normally look at him and I can say you're flat.
Oh,
you need food.
Yes, that was Linda Murray. I never heard of this.
You're flat. You need food. Whatever. I don't ask me how. I can't train you to do it. It's just being with him so long and seeing so many different versions. I pick it up really easily.
Well, you also take my photos.
I do take your photos
all year, so that makes a difference.
I do not coach him, trust me. But I can say, oh, you look flat today, whatever. So we're backstage, and he and I are both competing. We're using the same coach, and he literally is over in the corner, like pouting, because he was super flat. And so I was messaging Shelby like I normally, he told me to, and finally he said, "Where's Chris? I haven't heard from him." And I said, or maybe he didn't even ask. Maybe I just emailed and text back and said, "Hey, he's over here in the corner pouting. He needs food. He's flat as fuck, and he's gonna place last if he doesn't do something right now." So problem solved. Luckily, I had that relationship with him. Luckily we were using the same coach, so I could even do that. But that's Chris. Chris pouts when he. You ask, so I'm telling you, I'm getting all the dirt. Ask away. But he pouts when he feels like something's not right, or he's not doing his best, or he's not in the place that he wants to be in.
It's when things don't go as planned. If you don't notice, everything I do is with purpose and intent. And if it doesn't go how it's supposed to go in my mind, I get very angry. And just get quiet and just shut down. So I guess that's another way to say pouting. But yeah, it was fixed. I won my class. It was all good.
Yeah, he was fine. It turned out just fine. But yeah, that was probably my funniest story that I can think of.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you for joining us. That was right at 27 minutes. So I'm going to have her back because honestly, I love this woman and she can give you guys tons of insight of what it's like to be with someone who takes bodybuilding very, very seriously and pretty much lives the lifestyle of 365. Because at the end of the day, if I was a seasonal bodybuilder, it would be much easier to deal with me, but I'm just not. I don't have that ability to turn it on and off. When I turn it off, her and I will be on a tropical island with her in a thong. End of story. I'll be doing updates from the beach side.
But we don't get to do that when he's in contest prep, so just be very clear about this.
No, hell no. I don't have a gym or my food.
God.
But, okay, hush. All right, thanks guys for following along. I appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe as always. And this is going to be the 4th video for the week, so really excited to get this up and live. We'll bring her back in a couple weeks, and we'll knock out some more questions for you guys. Thanks.
Thanks.